My soul self just wants happiness for me too, just wants a life of love and enjoyment and richness and fullness. And that's all my fear wanted for me anyway. Hello, my darling sweet friend. Welcome to Braveheart Open Mind Live. Today, we are doing an episode of Journaling Out Loud, my sweet, delicious, and sometimes super scary series of the Braveheart Open Mind Live podcast, where I ask questions and literally journal out loud so that I can model this process for you, so that you can ask yourself these questions and get insight from your own darn sweet, beautiful mind. So that is what we are doing here today, and our topic of choice is how to greet stuckness, or that feeling of being stuck, with a sense of love or strategy, or basically how to unstick yourself when you feel stuck in a way that feels good and like it's from a place of self-love rather than strict motivation of like, well, you're stuck, so you have to do it. Get yourself out of it. That's such a harsh energy, and no one really likes that harsh energy, whether it's coming from yourself or from another person. So we are discussing and asking ourselves questions with the purpose or intent of getting ourselves unstuck, of giving ourselves an entryway to walk through into continuing forward with whatever it is that we would like to pursue or do for ourselves or devote ourselves to. And I'm excited for us to experience this together. And if the two of us haven't met yet, my name is Kayla Vavra, and I am a self-love and self-empowerment coach and poet. And I'm delighted to meet you. And if you and I have already met and you are returning once more to Braveheart Open Mind Live, or returning once more to my orbit, I so lovingly greet you. And I'm glad that we are sharing our time and our energy and our hearts together again today. So, with journaling out loud, I first wanted to detail for you how I set my mood for today's session and for most of the other sessions in the series that you may have heard already so far. So my very first step, probably the most, I would say, necessary for setting myself up for success in journaling out loud, is I brewed myself a delicious cup of tea in my favorite mug that says Stargazer on it. My husband got it for me, and this one resonates because I feel like I'm always dreaming and expanding and growing, and that feels, I don't know, like a lovely little celestial celebration of that part of myself who always is so magnetized towards growth and expansion. So, delicious tea during this process is very necessary for me personally because it makes me feel cozy. It helps me feel at home and settled and grounded, and it's something that I can do for myself when I am experiencing something that makes me feel really vulnerable. And so you may be also feeling vulnerable when you ask yourself these questions, and whether you journal them with pen and paper or you journal out loud into a voice notes app, or whether you go live on your own Facebook page to journal out loud, whatever it is, you can take some of those steps to make yourself feel a little bit cozier in that process. One of the other things that I did today to kind of set my environment up for success in journaling out loud is I have two cute little candles lit. And I know this one is a jack-o'-lantern. And I don't really care. I got it from my friend Krista, and she makes the freaking cutest candles. So I just keep him lit because he's adorable, and why not? He makes me happy and reminds me of a friend. And like one of my favorite YouTubers, Rachel Makesy, says, it can be a spooky season anytime if you want it in your heart. And so I've got that one, and then another just like little tea light lit for myself, ready to go to help myself set the stage for feeling vulnerable. And then, of course, I have a plant in my office. Well, I have like 95,000 plants in my office and in my home. But this one is a cute little Hoya obovata who sits on my desk, and he makes me feel happy and in touch with nature and with the universe, and so that's helpful too. And then, of course, I have sweet little flowers at my fingertips. I sometimes or often have flowers because I'm the daughter of a florist, so I just love a good flower bouquet. So that is how I took the time to set the stage for myself today. And then I also have a split screen where I'm live with you, and then I also have the questions up so that my sweet little vulnerable heart doesn't have to memorize questions also. She can relax a little and let that part be something she doesn't have to worry about when she's worried about figuring out existential answers to help me get my dreams. So that is where we are in our process of journaling out loud, and hopefully those little details might help you in setting your own space and setting the own tone for your own intimacy with yourself, for your own relationship or deepening of your relationship with yourself. And so, now that we have gone over setting the stage for success and coziness and feeling like we love ourselves through this process, let's get to our topic of how to greet stuckness with love and strategy, or how to unstick yourself when you feel stuck. And I'm very tempted to avoid these questions, which is probably why you haven't seen a journaling out loud question or series from me quite recently, because I've been avoiding answering some of the deeper questions, and avoidance is my top thing that I do when I know that I need some introspection and I know that I need to work on my relationship with myself and I feel scared about something, or my human self feels scared about what my soul self wants to do or wants to take us towards. And my very first question for myself is, and my very first question for you, my sweet friend, is, now that you're drawn to devote yourself to something, how do you feel tempted to draw away or to self-sabotage? And 2 days ago, I announced that I will be going live for 66 times in the next 77 days. And so that is what I am devoted towards. And whatever it is that you are devoted towards, this question fits easily or smoothly into whatever dream or thought or habit you want to institute for yourself. So now that you're drawn to devote yourself to something, how do you feel tempted to draw away or to self-sabotage? And like I said, I definitely feel tempted to draw away in the form of like literally drawing away in the form of avoidance. Because if I can keep myself in a pattern of avoidance, I don't have to do the thing that my soul self really wants for me to do. And my soul self always wants for me to like shine. She's the one who loves the stargazer like galaxy mug. She's the one who wants expansion and can see for myself how going live over the course of the next 77 days, at least 66 times, can build my presence in my business, can help me to expand my capacity for supporting you, for supporting other amazing humans through deepening their own relationship with themselves. And so my soul self can see that, and my human self is really scared of that. Um my human self feels like that's a lot of commitment, because if I am expanding my capacity to hold space for more people, excuse me, then I have to. The phrase that's rattling around in my mind is be responsible for people, even though logically I know that, like, you are a whole and complete person. You are responsible for you. I am here to help and support and to light the path, but you are the one who has to ultimately walk the path. And so I think my human thinks that we have to, like, pick up your feet and, like, march you down the path ourselves. And that is A, not sustainable, B, probably not how you want to experience things. I am certain that you would like to walk the path yourself, just with, friends to hold hands with alongside you. No one wants their feet literally picked up out from under them to have someone else move them. So that feels really good to kind of help my human see that truth, that we are only responsible for us, and we can absolutely go live 66 times. Like, why not? There's no reason why not, and it is safe to do so. There's no increase of quote unquote responsibility beyond like what I'm already doing, just more of it, right? So that feels good to kind of sink into. And you'll notice myself refer to myself as like a we, and it's not because I'm using like a royal we, like I'm like royalty or whatever. It's that I know that there are these conflicting sides of me, of my soul self, myself who desires more for me, and my very cautious human side. So that's what I'm referring to when I call myself we. And I guess the second half of that question is, how do you feel tempted to draw away? I answered that. Our next half is, how do you feel tempted to self-sabotage? And drawing away, like, avoidance can definitely be self-sabotage. And so can, for me specifically, over-strategizing or overthinking. Um, for example, I think about doing cute things for some of my friends, like, all the time. Like, dropping off, like, cute little, like, coffees at their doorstep on the weekends, or, like, I don't know, like, chocolate or whatever. And usually I strategize myself straight into not doing that. And it's easy to see how, like, I spend so much time in strategy on some things, like that example specifically, but then also like with business things, if I spend my time strategizing, then I'm not spending my time doing, and that allows me to then avoid doing what I'm strategizing for. And over the weekend, I did drop off like cute little things at some of my friends' houses just to let them know that I am thinking of them because, well, the friends who I dropped off for specifically this weekend are teacher friends, and teachers are going through a lot right now. And I very much almost didn't do it because I was like, well, XYZ thing to include isn't good enough. I should go to like such and such store and buy like XYZ thousand things to like just ways that made it so much more complicated than it even needed to be at all. And because I'm learning to be in deeper relationship with that side of me who over strategizes and that part of me who just sweetly wants to do the thing. I'm learning to bridge that gap and to broker peace between the two. And so I just dropped off simple little chocolates and cute little like polished crystals because your girl definitely owned a rock tumbler in high school and made a bunch of like really cute tumbled rocks. And so I just have them sitting in little dishes around my house. And so I just picked out a couple to like match each person's like personality and got some chocolate and dropped it off. And when you do things like that, when you just act on what your desire is and you can notice that part of yourself who's trying to over strategize, when you can see and recognize how you're trying to self sabotage yourself, it becomes easier for you to just lovingly call that side in and be like, hey, any love is better than no love. Like anything you do is better than doing nothing. One of my favorite phrases is done is better than perfect because any type of action is going to catalyze for you and is going to motivate you and actually show you results far more than sitting stuck in over strategizing and stuck in perfectionism. And so I know that I've been doing that a little bit yesterday and a little bit earlier today in avoiding this whole going live devotion. Um so that is part of what I've been doing. I'll be so interested to hear from you on how that question plays out for you when you journal on it. Our next question, my sweet friend, is what is significant about those feelings? And what are they here to teach or to bring to your attention? And so I mentioned avoidance and over strategizing. So what are significant about those feelings or those behaviors? Um, they're cycles. They're old cycles that my unconscious mind is trying to play on repeat, but we are in a moment of change now. Like we're at that tipping point where like those old stories, those old patterns are no longer going to run for me for very long because I'm going to see them, notice them, and lovingly call in that part of me who wants to basically lovingly call in my unconscious mind and say, hey, that pattern that you're trying to run on my behalf, that thing that you're trying to do that you think is helpful, is no longer helpful. Like, is no longer the way that we are going to continue to do things. And when you can make that process conscious, when you can look at what your unconscious mind is playing out for you as a pattern, as a story, as a cycle, and stop and say to yourself, say to your unconscious mind, that no longer works. Here is the loving path we're going to use instead. Hi, Ella! Thanks for popping on with me. And thanks for the cute little like celebration, like little party hat emoji. Thank you. It's good to see you on here. So that I think is the significance of noticing that for myself is actually a celebration of being able to see that my unconscious mind is trying to run that pattern, and like that's no longer a viable option. We're no longer doing that. And so that kind of actually makes me proud of myself. Ella says, hee, yes, all the party vibes. Heck yes. That is honestly what journaling out loud is for. Even though it is very vulnerable for me and for you to answer these questions, we get to do it together. And that is a party in and of itself. Ella says, oh, yes, it's def a celebration with a little champagne cork popper. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that feels really good to know the significance of that. And the second part of that question is, what are they here to teach or to bring to my attention? So, what for me is avoidance and over strategizing here to teach or to bring to my attention? And I think avoidance is just trying to bring my fear to my attention. And honestly, my fear is my most vocal emotional cheerleader. Like, oh my God, hey, we should be scared. Like, don't do that thing. Keep yourself safe. Like, she's really trying to cheer me on from the sidelines, but saying, like, the most cringy things about it from my soul's perspective. Like, no, cheerlead me to keep going, cheerlead my expansion. So I think that that is what my avoidance is bringing up for me, is that sweet fear. And I know that that fear is only a matter of desiring safety and protection for myself. And I know that, as Ella says so often, I have my own back, and I know that I will keep myself safe. And so then, what is over strategizing here to teach or to bring to my attention? And my over strategizing is honestly kind of nice to witness, in that I can see my own intelligence, which, considering myself a smart or intelligent person, has been like a crusade or a badge of honor. Like, if I feel like if I don't have that, then I used to feel very insignificant without that piece or component of my personality or of my abilities. And as I am softening those judgments that used to make me think that I'm not smart, I'm an idiot, like I'm not good enough, as I am softening the voices of those things, then I'm able to like see amplified this behavior of over strategizing. And like, idiots don't strategize, if that makes sense, right? Like, it's this lovely little herald of my own intelligence and my own self-worth, that I have the ability to strategize, that I'm able to see possibilities for multiple strategies. And that's kind of really nice to feel into, because I previously had been blocking myself from being able to see some of those traits or qualities about myself. And so even though I don't desire to over strategize, I do enjoy that my mind is able to strategize. And even though my unconscious mind is using that behavior to hold me back right now, that doesn't mean that that is always going to be the case, right? Like, when I speak about the unconscious mind always acting from a place of love for you, of love for self, of self-love, it's it's because you have those qualities, like intelligence, like strategy, and your unconscious mind is just using them in a way that you no longer find useful anymore. And then that just means that you can reroute its energy into using those things in a way that is helpful, in a way that propels you, in a way that expands you, which is really beautiful. So I can't wait for you to ask yourself that question and see what's on the other side lovingly of being able to see what those things that are coming up from you in that first question, how they're significant, what they're here to teach you, like how you can pay attention to those things from a place of self-love, because that's beautiful and so, so powerful. Our next question is, I'm gonna pause for some tea here, and I'm actually going to open. I usually have like an emergency water sitting next to me when I go live, also, or for when I journal out loud. And this one is a LaCroix key lime because that's what Aldi had in stock for me. Okay, thanks for letting me take a moment. Our next question is, in what way are you resentful or fearful of your devotion? And resentful and fearful came up for me with my devotion when I was writing this question. And I don't really even know what it means yet because, well, I'm avoiding answering the question right now as we speak. Right now, live in front of you, I'm avoiding. So let's circle back to the question, which is, in what way are you resentful or fearful of your devotion? And I guess my human side would say that I'm a little resentful of my devotion because I'm still scared of it. And I have been trying to do a better job of feeling into my emotions and allowing myself to feel the full measure of them, because otherwise they just get repressed and then sit there in like usually my upper back, like feeling like pressury and like angry that I haven't paid attention to them. So I've been trying to feel them more deeply, and perhaps I didn't let myself feel my full fear of this devotion of going live for 66 days. And if you are watching this rather than listening, you'll notice that I've closed my eyes and I've placed my hands on my heart. So for those of you listening, that's what I'm doing now. Just to kind of tap into that full measure of fear. And if I'm having trouble feeling it in the moment, I always kind of picture like I'm in this cute little sitting room with doilies and overstuffed couches, and I invite my fear in and pour it a cup of tea. And I just ask my fear, what brings you by today? And for me, my fear is saying, you ignored me and that made me mad. And what I have to say is important. My fears are valid. And to be honest, my fear is right? Like, my emotions are all valid. You feeling your emotions is absolutely valid. And that's why letting yourself feel them and validate them in full measure as often as possible and hopefully in real time can be so cathartic and can allow you to move so much more quickly because you're not sitting in resistance and your emotions aren't sitting in resentment, right? Like, if you're resisting feeling the emotion and your emotion is sitting in resentment of not being felt, you're really just setting yourself up for an increase in conflict. And so I'll place my hands back on my heart and close my eyes again and tap back into that fear and say to it, I'm sorry I didn't validate you. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't welcome. and just ask, for what reason are you afraid for me? And my fear says, because you're going too fast, because you're crazy, because you're doing too much. And for what reason, for what intention do you fear those things for me? And my fear says, because I don't want you to get tired, because I want you to have energy, because you need to protect your energy. Good, I totally agree. Protecting my energy is important to me. For what intention do you want to protect my energy? So that you have the capacity for love and enjoyment and happiness. And I always love it when I get to this point with my emotions and you can hear like the happiness and the unity and perhaps the high emotion in my voice right now, because when I get to that place with my emotions of knowing that all that my fear wants for me is happiness, then we can have this moment of wholeness where I know that my soul self just wants happiness for me too, just wants a life of love and enjoyment and richness and fullness. And that's all my fear wanted for me anyway. So it's beautiful that we can be here together now instead, because we've gone through the process of validating and feeling out each other's intentions between my soul self and my human self, between my ambitions and dreams and desires and my emotions. And that's how it can be for you too when you take the time to be intentional like that and take the time to tap in. And perhaps you yourself can put your hands on your heart and close your eyes and feel into that beautiful emotion. Our next question is, oh, back to part two of that question. In what way are you fearful? Oh, I was resentful because I was fearful. Okay, we answered that question in its wholeness. So T, and then the next question. All right. You have a vision that you see for yourself, obviously. So when you envision or feel into your dream or desire or devotion, what actions are you taking across the scope of your life? Ooh, this is a deep one. Let's see. So I'll close my eyes and envision my dream and desire and devotion. And when I do, I'll be asking, what actions are you taking across the scope of your life? So, okay, I'll envision going live for 66 days of the next 77, and then see what it is for myself, what actions I'm taking. I am enjoying more. I can see myself taking that action of hitting the live button. I can see myself like being really exuberant and excited. And so, what other actions am I taking across the scope of my life? I see myself making my website really seamless, making it like working out any of the kinks that I know are there, because we're all our own worst critic. I know. I can see the parts that I consider wrong that need a little finesse. So I see myself doing that. I see myself adding more content into my homecoming program, more envisionings like this one, more envisionings like inviting your emotions in for tea. And within homecoming, it feels even more luxuriously cozy. And deliciously deep in us getting in touch with ourselves, with deepening and enriching our relationships with ourselves, which feels really beautiful. And I'll tap back in for a moment to see if there's anything else for me taking actions across the scope of my life. I see myself also being cleaner in my home. So taking those actions of picking up more consistently and keeping my spaces clear so that when something's out of place, I know it's out of place and I can put it back. And I think that was the one that I needed to hear myself say, because you know how, like, cleanliness experts or psychologists say things like the cleanliness of the space around you reflects your, like, mental chaos or whatever. I feel like I've heard that said around the block a time or two. And so I really feel like I've always been a messy person. Like, you can ask my sister, you can ask my mom. And I feel like a part of clutter is being able to, like, hide amongst it, if that makes sense. If I feel so silly saying that, but I think it's really true of myself that a cluttery lifestyle was a way for me to just, like, shroud myself and, like, feel entrenched in, I don't know, a hovel of my own, like, clutter creation. And honestly, quite honestly, the more I was involved in December in this amazing coaching program that was called Unveiled, that helped me to become more seen and to work through some of my, I guess, hangups or resistance around being seen, the, like, less cluttery I am, the more picked up things seem to stay. And gosh, if I get laundry under control, then we're doing really good. But that is really far down the bottom of my list. That is not next on my list. Probably getting the kitchen in a state of, I can't say beauty because it's definitely a 70s dark wood avocado countertops situation, but we can get it to a place of declutteredness, a state of cleanliness, a state of being picked up. And me making tea more frequently has honestly helped with that, because I always want my area where I make tea to be nice and clear and sweet and a place of expansion. And so I feel like as I devote myself to being present here for you, I'm also seeing myself taking actions of being devoted to being present for myself in my own life, in my own home. And that feels really beautiful. Feels a little overwhelming also. And it feels really beautiful at the same time. So I'll need to do a little bit more introspection and greet my overwhelm with a little bit of love. All right. Our next question, and the last one that I have officially planned, although who knows when my little brain thinks of not little. See, when I was talking about ensuring that I feel intelligent and breaking those patterns of minimizing myself in my very human, delightful brain. Who knows when my delightful human brain will come up with a follow-up question. So, our last question is, how can the pressures of desiring to take these actions seem friendlier or born from a place of love? So, how can the pressures seem friendlier or seem like they're born from a place of love? I feel like we kind of already covered that in inviting my fear in, inviting my resentment in to be seen, to be witnessed, to be held and validated a little bit. Always, I think, the reminder that our unconscious mind, despite whatever program that it's running for us, despite whatever habit that it's trying to repeat for us, is always doing it out of a place of love. And so I think it's really purposeful and beautiful to have that reminder to kind of bookend this session of journaling out loud. So to just know that anything that came up for you while you ask yourself these questions, anything that comes up is coming from a place of love. Just like when I asked my fear, for what intention do you want that for me? For what intention do you want that for me? And we eventually got to happiness and enjoyment. You, my sweet friend, anything that comes up for you during this journaling session for yourself is coming from a place of love. It's born from a place of friendliness, of trying to do its best for you. And what you have the opportunity to do now, what you get to do now, is with loving guidance, show your unconscious mind how it can be even more loving, how it can stop those old cycles and turn its attention to working for you instead. My coaching friend Ella, who was on here a little bit earlier, she had to go. But my friend Ella, she was talking in her coaching group about pressure a lot this morning. And when I was listening to her live, I was like, I feel like pressure is secretly just the sweetest, kindest little golden retriever you've ever met. And because it just, those fears and those resentments and that feeling of pressure that you feel when you decide to devote yourself to something, it's just like, okay, but like fear though, like I'm here, we're fearful, I'm afraid, I'm here. Like it comes with the attitude of the cutest little golden retriever. And if you can picture your unconscious mind as like the smartest and also sweetest, gentlest entity like that, you can really see how you can frame that relationship with your unconscious mind, where like you are training it to do what you want for it to do. Like you are telling it now, wherever you are in your life, as not a child anymore, as a human who is aware of some of the cycles or patterns that they're stuck in. You can begin to train your unconscious mind to be like, no, my darling, no, no, no. We do not poop inside, we poop outside, right? Like, whatever it is that you are trying to reroute or reprogram or break the cycle of, you get to be able to train your unconscious mind to do it another way. And one of the most beautiful ways to do that, one of the simplest ways to do that, is through repetition, which is why I chose this 66-day live devotion for myself, because it takes a minimum of 66 days to build a habit. I think that's according to a UK study. You can Google that. And so repetition can be so beautiful. So whatever it is, my darling sweet friend, that you desire to devote to, you, through repetition and through engaging lovingly with yourself, with your fears, with your human unconscious mind, you can do anything you devote yourself to. And if it feels really good for you to join me in this devotion, right? please do so. I am going to be putting out beautiful lives like this, content like this, to support you in doing that. And so then you are supported through all of your repetition and through guiding your unconscious mind to working for you on your behalf in a way that serves you, which is beautiful. So, I totally invite you to join me to devote yourself to what you desire for the next 66 days out of 77 days so that we have a buffer for rest and relaxation and enjoyment and for talking ourselves through our fear. So, I fully invite you to do that with me, my darling sweet friend. And I showed this on my live yesterday, but I'll show it again today in case you missed it. I created a little tracker for myself to track my 66-day devotion to following my heart. So, whatever it is that you feel magnetized towards by your heart that's drawing you, you can devote yourself to it. And so, for each of the 66 days that I do go live, I write to myself, I love you. And then for any of the 77 days where I do not go live, I write to myself, I believe in you and I love you. And that feels really good because whether I am acting upon my devotion or holding myself through my fear or just beautifully resting, I know that I believe in myself and my dreams and desires. And I know that I love myself. And so if it feels good for you to make yourself a little tracker like that for something that you desire to devote yourself towards, I invite you to do that because that is how we are jamming out here inside of Braveheart Open Mind. And I am here to support you as always. And my dear sweet friend, from my heart to yours, I am sending you so much love. And I hope that you have the most incredible day possible for you. I'm sending you so much love, my friend.